Hi guys, today we are going to discuss JAM 2016 question paper and we are going to thoroughly understand the concepts and the processes behind the questions. So without wasting any more time, let's start. The first question, the most abundant metal by weight percentage in the earth crust is, and the answer is aluminium. You can clearly see from the graph a large part of Earth's crust is covered by oxygen and silicon, but they are non-metals. But here we are asked about metals. So among metals, aluminum has the highest percentage in the Earth crust, that is 8%. Okay. Next we have iron, calcium, sodium, potassium, and so on. Okay. Next question. The correct order of increasing stability of minerals during chemical weathering is. That means you have to put the mineral first, which is least stable to chemical weathering, and then you have to arrange them from least stable to more stable mineral. And in Bowen's reaction series, when you move down from olivine to pyroxene to amphibole all the way towards the quartz, the stability of the minerals in chemical weathering increases gradually. So our answer will be olivine, then pyroxene, then biotite, and then finally quartz. Okay, option A. Next question. In the topographic map, the steepest slope is, and the answer is, you can see from this diagram where it is written 290 meters, 300 meters, 310 meters. That is toward the west side of the diagram. There the contour lines have a greater space in between them compared to the similar lines at the eastern side. That is, at the eastern side, the contour lines are nearer to each other. Okay. Now look at this diagram. In the first diagram, the contour lines are close with each other, and as a result, the landform is steep enough. But in the second figure, you can see the contour lines are spaced, and as a result, you can see the landform that is produced is quite gentle compared to the first one. Okay. So you can get a general conclusion here that closer contour lines equal to steeper slope and wider contour lines equal to gentle slope. Okay. So in our question, at the eastern side, that is towards the right hand side of the figure, we get close contour lines. So at that point, the slope will be steepest. Okay. Next question. Gabbro contains much more alumina than peridotite because it is richer in. Now see, gabbro is a basic rock which is the plutonic equivalent of basalt, and peridotite is a monomineralic rock of olivine. That is, it contains 95% to 100% olivine only. But the question here is, why gabbro has more alumina than peridotite in it? So the answer is simple. In gabbro, we have plagioclase and clinopyroxene as its constituents, and both in plagioclase and clinopyroxene, we get alumina there, right? But in peridotite, which is mostly composed of olivine, there is very less amount, or you can say negligible amount of alumina there. So as a result, there is very less alumina in the peridotite also. So gabbro contains much more alumina than peridotite. Okay. So our answer will be option D, that gabbro contains more plagioclase than peridotite. That's why it has more alumina than it. Okay. Our next question is a bit straightforward question. It is, coking coal in India is found in, and the answer is simple, Jharia, Jharkhand. Our next question, the amplitude of ground motion during an earthquake of magnitude 7 in Richter scale is how many times more than that of a magnitude 5. Okay. Now see, a single increase in the number of Richter scale signifies 10 time increase in the magnitude of earthquake. Okay, you understand that? Let's suppose at point A, we have an earthquake of magnitude 4, and at a different place B, we have an earthquake which has a magnitude of 5. Okay. So now you can clearly say that the earthquake at B has a 10 times more amplitude than the earthquake at A. Okay. And similarly, it increases in the multiple of 10. Okay. So here we have two magnitudes in the Richter scale. One is 5 and another one is 7. So clearly it is 100 times more in amplitude than that the previous one. Next question. The failed arm of continental rift is called, and the answer is, it is called Olnaco chain. Next question. The hardest mineral with the exception of diamond in the Mohs scale of hardness is. Now you have the Mohs scale of hardness here and diamond as the hardest mineral. And before that we have corundum whose formula is Al2O3. So it is an oxide. Okay. Next question. Which one of the following is capable of transporting sediments against the slope? And the answer will be tidal current. Due to the force in the tidal current, they can transport the sediments against the slope. Okay. Next question. Which is the most abundant ion in the normal seawater? And the answer will be chlorine. Because you get different salts there like sodium chloride, magnesium chloride and etc. in which chlorine plays a big part, right? So undoubtedly the most abundant ion on normal seawater is chloride. Okay. Next we have a match the column question where we have to match the minerals in group 1 with their corresponding silicate structure in group 2. At the first look you may say that this question might be a tricky one, right? But in reality it is a very simple question. Okay, let me break it off for you. Anthophyllite is an amphibole, Heidelbergite is pyroxene. So now the equation becomes so simpler, right? Amphibole means double chain silicate, pyroxene means single chain silicate, and the rest you know, right? Coderite is cyclosilicate and zeolite is a tectosilicate. So option C will be our right answer. Next question. The correct name for the well-sorted sandstone whose framework composition plots at Y in the following QFR diagram is. Now in this figure you can see if the quartz is 95% or more, then it is called quartz arenite. But if feldspar is 5 to 25%, then it is Sauber-Quartz, and if it is more than 25%, then it is Arc-Quartz. Similarly, if the percentage of lithic fragment is 5 to 25%, then it is sublithic arenite. If it is more than 25%, then it is lithic arenite. Okay. Just to remind you, the rock which matrix content is 0 to 15%, we call that sandstone as an arenite. Okay. Next question. Which one of the following optical properties of mineral is not observed under Cross-Nichols? If you see the options, we use cross polar for extinction. We use them for interference color and interference figure as well. So the only option that we are left with is pleochroism. It is the phenomena in which if you rotate the stage, the mineral changes its color. And this phenomena is observed in plane polarized light. So our answer will be option D, that is pleochroism. Next question. Choose the correct stereographic projection among the following that represents 2-2-2 crystal symmetry. Now if we look at the options, in option A and B, we have solid outer circle which represents a perpendicular mirror plane. But in the HM symbol we are provided with, there is no mirror plane. So we can clearly exclude A and B options. In option C, we have a twofold axis at C parallel to C axis and two twofold axes at the periphery. And we have the dashed outline, that means there is no perpendicular mirror plane. Now if you see the motifs, just concentrate on the black dot. If you rotate the black dot 180 degree, then exactly after 180 degree, once again we get a black dot. Similarly for a white dot, if you rotate it 180 degree, then after 180 degree we will again get a white dot. So that's a perfect condition for our 2-2-2 crystal symmetry, and that should be our answer. But we must explain why D is not the answer. Also in D we have dashed outline, that means there is no perpendicular mirror plane. But see the motifs. Suppose look at the black motif. After 180 degree rotation, it will come to a position that is diagonally opposite to it. But at a diagonally opposite point, we get a white circle. So after 180 degree rotation, we don't get the same motif again. That's why it doesn't represent the 2-2-2 crystal system. Okay. Now if you want to know more about these systems, then you can check out the videos of HM symbol and stereographic projection of crystals. The links are in the description. Next question. Here we have a match the following questions, and in which in group 1 we have the type of fold and in group 2 we have their characteristics features. So for a parallel fold which is 1B fold, we have minimum thickness parallel to the axial surface at the hinge, and for a chevron fold we have angular hinge, for a similar fold, that is class 2 fold, we have constant thickness parallel to the axial surface, and in mushroom we have negative interleave angle. So our answer will be option C. Okay. Next question. The number of fourth order stream present in the drainage network shown below as per hierarchical classification is. Now see, I have mentioned all the stream orders there in the drainage network. You can see from the top all the drainage are first order streams, and when a first order streams join with another first order stream, it produces a second order stream. But remember, a second order stream must combine with another second order stream in order to get a third order stream. So in the right side we have a table which says the first order and a first order gives rise to a second order, but a second order and a first order still remains the second order stream. And now a second order and a second order, that will gives rise to a third order stream, and similarly a third order stream and a third order stream will give rise to a fourth order stream. Now see, in the drainage network we have only one fourth order stream. So our answer will be option 1. Okay. Next question. During metamorphism, temperature can increase at constant pressure in case of, and our answer will be option 4, that is due to the intrusion of batholith, because due to the intrusion of batholith, magma comes in contact with the rocks and as a result their temperature goes higher, but there is no change in their net overburden pressure. So that's the answer for us, and that is option D, intrusion of batholith. Next we have a question from stratigraphy. Choose the correct chronological order from oldest to youngest from the following stratigraphic units. The oldest among all of these is the Sargur group, which has the age of 3100 to 3300 million years. Next we have Chitradurga group, which is again of Dharwad supergroup and whose age is 2600 to 2800 million years. Next after that we have Udaipur group, which has the age of 2000 to 2500 million years, which is of Aravalli supergroup. And at last we have Ajamgarh group, which is of Delhi supergroup and whose age is 900 to 1600 million years. Okay. So our answer will be option A. Next, identify the rock types at X and Y in the following key QAP diagrams of IUGS. Now if you look at the QAP diagram, you can clearly say that X is tonalite and Y is granite. Okay. So the sequence there from left to right is first alkali feldspar granite, then granite, then granodiorite, and at last we have tonalite. Okay. Next, a schematic diagram of a divergent plate boundary with arrows indicating the direction of plate movement is given below. Which one of the following statement is not true for points P, Q, R and S if the spreading rate for both the plate is uniform and is same through the time and space? So we are given with a divergent plate boundary situation here with two plates moving away from each other, and the arrow shows the direction of their movement. Okay. Now we have to say which one of the following options is not true. Okay. The first option is the rock at P and S have the same edge. Now see, P and S are approximately at same distance from the central part at two opposite sides. So you can say that they are of similar age. Next, the rocks at S are twice as old as those at R. So you can see the distance from center to R is almost half than the distance of center to S. So this statement is also correct. The next we have the age of rocks at Q is 0 million years. So the rocks that are found exactly at the mid-oceanic ridge at the youngest, so their age may be considered as 0 million years. So option C is also correct. But remember, we have to choose the wrong one. Okay. The last option we have the age of rocks decrease progressively from P to S, and this is the wrong answer, because from P to Q the rocks decrease in age progressively, but from Q to S onwards the age of the rocks continuously increases. So option 4 is the answer. Next question, Mississippian and Pennsylvanian belongs to which period? And the answer is it belongs to Carboniferous period. Okay. Next, a gravity dam with east-west axis is to be constructed on a narrow river valley between two north-south trending parallel ridges. The river is flowing from south to north The lithology of the area is represented by 2 to 5 meter thick metasedimentary rock like quartzite, phyllite and schist. Which of the following geological condition will be most suitable? Now the most suitable condition here is the situation where both the ridges are perpendicular to the gravity dam axis and they dip in opposite direction to each other. So our answer will be option B, that is beds in both ridges strike north-south but dip in opposite direction to each other. Okay. Next we have a match the column where in column 1 we have ore deposits and in column 2 we have their localities. You know, copper is extracted from Khetri, Rajasthan, and lead zinc is extracted from Rampura Agucha from Rajasthan. Manganese is extracted from Balghat, Madhya Pradesh. Bauxite is mined from Panchpatmali, Odisha. So our answer will be option B. Here we have in group 1 the stratigraphic units and in group 2 their ages. Kumbum formation is of Nalamalai group which is of Kadapa and whose age is Proterozoic. Next, Baisakhi formation is of Jaisalmer area and whose age is Mesozoic. Next we have Kopili formation which is of Assam and its age is Cenozoic era. Next we have Barakar formation which is of Gondwana supergroup and whose age is Paleozoic era. So accordingly if you match this we will have the correct answer as option B. Okay. Next, which one of the following sedimentary structure is related to gravitational instability? Now see, for the formation of load cast, inverted density layering is essential and which is unstable under gravity. So our answer will be load cast, option B. Okay. Next we have a match the column question. Escutcheon is a term which is used in bivalvia. Plastron is used in Echinodermata. Delthirium is a part of Brachiopoda and siphuncle we use it in nautiloid. So our answer will be option B. Next question. Which one of the following is an upper Gondwana flora? And the answer is Tilophyllum is the upper Gondwana flora among all of these. Except Tilophyllum, all others are lower Gondwana flora. So our answer will be option A. Next we have a match the column question. Here in group 1 we have the mode of crystallization and in group 2 we have the resulting texture. So eutectic crystallization results in graphic texture, fractional crystallization results in crystal zoning, exhalation results in porphyritic texture and submarine eruption results in pillow structure. Because in submarine condition when the lava erupts it directly comes in contact with water and it cools down very fast. As a result it forms pillow structure. Okay. Fractional crystallization is the removal of early formed crystals from an originally homogeneous magma so that these crystals are prevented from further reaction with the residual melt and as a result they form crystal zoning. Okay. Next, the fault for which the orientation and displacement vectors are given in the following lower hemisphere stereographic projection is A. Now look at the displacement vector. Here the displacement vector is horizontal. So the answer will be strike slip fault because only in strike slip fault the displacement is horizontal. Okay. Next, the change in coordination number of silicon when alpha quartz transforms to stishovite which has octahedral coordination is. Now see, alpha quartz has a coordination number of 4 and stishovite as it is given in the question it has the coordination number of 6. So simple, the change in coordination number is 2, that is option 1. With that we have completed all our MCQ questions. Now let's discuss the MSQ questions. The first question is, which one of the following are found only in brittle shear zone? And the answer is, we find cataclysite, pseudotrachelite and gauge in brittle shear zone. Mylonite is found in ductile shear zone. Okay. Next question, which among the following statement related to headward erosion is correct? Now see, all the options are correct except the length of tributaries increase. This option is wrong. Except it, all the other options are correct. Because due to headward erosion, length of main channel increases, steam gets captured and channel gradient increases upstream. But it has no effect on the length of tributaries. Okay. Next question. In the thin section of 30 micrometer thickness, The refractive index of a mineral are 1.565 and 1.468. Now choose the correct statement about its optical property. Now see, the refractive index of E ray is greater than O ray, so it is uniaxial positive. And because it has a very low difference in the refractive index, so it will show low to moderate relief. Okay, so our answers are option 1 and option 4. Next question, which one of the following statement is not true for the equilibrium crystallization of plagioclase from a melt in the binary system NaAlSi3O8 and CaAlSi2O8 at constant pressure? Now see, all the above options are correct except the last one, because in the last one it is written equilibrium crystallization leads to the formation of zone crystals. This is wrong because in fractional crystallization we get zoning crystals. Okay. Next question, the value of gravity at Earth's surface depend on. Now see, the value of gravity at the surface of the Earth depends on all the 4 options given here. That is, it depends on the latitude, altitude and the composition of the underlying material and the relative position of Sun and Earth. Okay. Next, choose the borrowing forms of bivalve. We know that the borrowing forms of bivalve are Maya and Venus. Next question, which one of the following environment are characterized by the predominant deposit of mud? And we get predominant mud deposit in lagoons and fluvial floodplains. Next, which one of the following stratigraphic unit belongs to Cretaceous? And we have Bhuj formation and Aureolur formation, which is of Cretaceous age. Because the Pacham formation and the Cattrall formation, they belongs to the Jurassic of Kutch. But in the question we have asked about the Cretaceous period. Okay. Next question, which one of the following ore deposits are formed only by hydrothermal process? Tin and tungsten ore associated with gregenized rock and vein type gold ore associated with greenstone belt. These are the ore deposits that are only formed by hydrothermal process. Okay, because the nickel copper sulfide ores can be found in oxidation and supergene enrichment process, and the layer type chromite ore deposit can be found by the action of magmatic activity. Next question, megmatite is a rock in which mafic parts are intermixed with pods or layers of granitic composition with melanosome and leucosome with a solid residue and a partial residue, and which forms at higher grade metamorphic conditions. All these conditions are the features of a megmatite rock. So the answer is A, B, C, D, all of these. Okay. Now with this we have completed the MSQ part. Next and the last part we have is the numerical questions. First question, based on the ideal end member formula of diopside, the mole proportion of CaO, plotting the mineral on CaO, MgO and SiO2 triangular diagram is. See, in diopside we have the formula calcium, magnesium, Si2O6, that is CaMgSi2O6. So it contains 1 mole of CaO, 1 mole of MgO and 2 mole of SiO2. And here we are asked about the mole percentage of CaO. So it is the moles of CaO divided by total number of moles, that is 1 divided by 4, which gives rise to 25%. So here we have calcium oxide 25%, magnesium oxide 25% and rest SiO2 50%. Okay, you can see the position of diopside in CaO, MgO and SiO2 triangular diagram. Next question, the phi value of a sediment particle having 4 mm diameter is. Now phi equal to minus log base 2 d, where d is the diameter of the grain. According to the question, phi equal to minus log base 2 4, because the diameter of the particle is given 4 mm. Okay. Now we can write 4 as the square of 2. So now 2 comes out and we get minus 2 as our answer, because log 2 base 2 equal to 1. Next question, calcite, quartz, wollastonite and carbon dioxide fluids are present in equilibrium during the formation of a calc silicate rock. In the chemical system CaO, SiO2 and CO2, the degree of freedom of the assemblies is. Now see, generally we exclude mobile components like CO2, H2O, etc. But here we have considered CO2 as a component in our system. So we have to consider it in our phase as well. So we have 4 phases, that is calcite, quartz, wollastonite and CO2. degree of freedom we have to calculate, and we have three components, that is CaO, SiO2 and CO2. Now putting all the values in the phase rule, that is P plus F equal to C plus 2, you will get that the value of degree of freedom equal to 1. Next question, weight of a 10 cc medium grain sandstone block with 20% volume by volume porosity in dry state is 26%. The density of the block when fully saturated with water is dash gram per cc. Okay. Now see, we are given the volume of sandstone in dry state is 10 cm3. That is, there is no water in the pore spaces. And also given that the porosity is 20%. Now we can calculate the volume of pores. That is, it is the 20% of total volume. That is 10 into 20%. That is 2 cm3. Okay. Now the density of water, as we all know, is 1 gram per cc. So the mass of water that can be present in the pores is density into volume, that is 1 into 2, that is 2 gram. Now in the question it is given that the mass of dry sandstone, that is the sandstone in which there is no water, is 26 gram. So if the sandstone is saturated with water, that means if all the pore spaces are filled up with water, then the total mass of the sandstone will be 26 plus 2, that is 28 gram. So the density of the rock will be mass by volume, that is 28 divided by 10 cc, that is 2.8 gram per cc. Okay. Next question. In the following figure, the exterior angle measured between 001 and 021 with a goniometer in a crystal is 40 degree. The interior angle between 010 and 021 in degrees is. According to Steno's law of interfacial angle, the interfacial angle between all the faces are same. Geometrically, the interior angle between 001 and 021 will be 140 degree, which will be same as the 010 and 021. Next question, if the elevation of a wave cut platform is 55 meter above the sea level and the age of the erosional surface is 120 kiloyears, the rate of rock uplift at this coastal location is dash meter per kiloyears. Now see, the total elevation of the platform is 55 meters and the age of the erosional surface is 120 kiloyears. So the rate of upliftment is equal to the total elevation divided by the total time of elevation, that is 55 divided by 120, which gives rise to 0.46 meter per kiloyears. Next question, a foliation plane has a strike of 25 degree and 60 degree easterly dip. A mineral lineation on this foliation plane has a pitch of 90 degree. Now the plunge direction of the mineral lineation in whole circle bearing is. Now see, the strike of the plane is 25 degree and its pitch is 90 degree. So in such cases, you just add up the strike and the pitch value of the lineation and you can get the whole circle bearing of it. Here we have 90 degree plus 25 degree equals to 115 degree. Next question, two outcrops on a 1:25,000 map are 12 cm apart. The ground distance between the two outcrops is dash kilometer. Now see, in a map of scale 1:25,000, it means that if 2 points are 1 cm apart in the map, then they are 25,000 centimeter away from each other on the ground. So if 2 points are 12 meter apart on the map, then on the ground the distance will be 12 into 25,000. That is 3 kilometers. Okay. Next question. Fine modes are deposited at a rate of 1 centimeter for 1000 years. Assuming constant sedimentation rate and the absence of compaction, a 1 kilometer thick sequence would be deposited in dash million years. Now see, here the rate of sediment deposition is 1 centimeter in 1000 years and the total thickness of sediment is 1 kilometer, that is 10 to the power 3 meters, that is 10 to the power 3 into 10 to the power 2, that is 10 to the power 5 centimeters. Okay. Now if you want to know why we have multiplied 10 to the power 3 and 10 to the power 2 into it, then 1 kilometer equal to 1000 meters, that is 10 to the power 3 meters, and 1 meter equal to 100 centimeters, that is 10 to the power 2 centimeters. Okay. So the total time taken equal to total thickness divided by the rate of sedimentation, that is 10 to the power 5 divided by 1 divided by 1000, that is 10 to the power 8 years, that is 100 million years. Okay. Next question, B and B dash are 2 points on the topographic map shown below. The distance between B and B dash along the line traverse BB dash is 220 meters. The angle of slope along this traverse is dash degree. Now see, in the question it is also given that the contour interval is 20 meters. Now when you move from B to B dash, we have 4 contour intervals. Vertical distance between B and B dash is 20 into 4, that is 80 meters. Now according to the question, the horizontal distance between B and B dash is 220 meters. So slope, that is tan theta, equal to vertical distance by horizontal distance, that is 80 divided by 220, which gives rise to 0.37. The next question, the half-life of a radioactive nuclei A is double that of a radioactive nuclei B. A fraction of A remaining when B is reduced to 1 by 64 is dash. So here let us assume that we have amount initially equal to 1. So the quantity left after n half-lives will be 1 by 2 to the power n. This is a formula, okay. Now let the half-life of B is x. Now according to the question, the half-life of A is double of that of the B. So the half-life of A is 2x. Now the total time of decay is n into x. So the number of half-lives of A is nx divided by 2x, that is n by 2. Now when B is reduced to 1 by 64, that means 1 by 2 to the power n equal to 1 by 64. And if you calculate the value of it, comes out to be 6, because 2 to the power 6 equal to 64. Okay. So the number of half-lives in A equal to n by 2, that is 3. So the time in which B will complete its 6 half-lives, at the same time A will have only 3 half-lives. So the quantity of A left over after 3 half-lives will be 1 by 2 to the power 3, that is 1 by 8, which is equals to 0.125. Okay. Next question, the total metal content of a mineral 20 meter into 20 meter into 3 meter ore block having bulk density 2.75 gram per cc and assay value 1.5 percentage of copper each. Now see, the length, breadth and the width of the ore block is given, so we can calculate the volume of it, and we have given the bulk density, so we can calculate the total mass of the ore body. The total mass of ore equal to volume into density, so that will give rise to 13,200 gram. Now the total metal content in it equal to the total mass of ore into assay value, and if you calculate, you will get 19.8 gram of metal content in it. Next question, the temperature at the Earth's surface is 25 degrees Celsius. The temperature at the base of Earth crust is, which is 30 km thick, if the geothermal gradient are 25 degrees Celsius per kilometer up to 15 km depth and 15 degrees Celsius per kilometer further down each. Now see, in this question, at the surface of Earth we have a temperature of 25 degrees Celsius, okay, and we have to calculate the temperature at a depth of 30 km. But the condition is for the first 15 kilometers the geothermal gradient is 25 degrees Celsius per kilometer, and for the second it has 15 degrees Celsius per kilometer. So the decrease in temperature for first 15 km equal to 25 into 15, that is 375, and the decrease in temperature for the next 15 km equal to 15 into 15, that is 225. Now the total decrease in temperature is 375 plus 225, that is 600 degrees Celsius. Now the temperature at Earth's surface is 25 degrees Celsius, and if we go down, the temperature of the Earth increases. So the temperature at 30 km depth is 25 plus 600, that is 625 degrees Celsius. Okay. Next, melt in the binary system MgO SiO2 contains 89.92 weight percentage SiO2. If all the magnesium is consumed to form enstatite, how many moles of this mineral will crystallize from 100 grams of the melt? We have given the molecular weight of MgO and SiO2. Now here, as the SiO2 concentration is 89.92%, MgO concentration is 100 minus 89.92, that is 10.08%. Now from 100 gram of the melt, MgO can crystallize equal to 10.08 gram. Now the molecular weight of MgO equal to 40.3. So the number of moles formula is the given weight divided by the molecular weight. And here we have the given weight as 10.08 and the molecular is 40.3. And if you calculate, the value comes out to be 0.25 moles. Okay. Next question. A lahergolite genolith from the mantle contains 50 volume percentage olivine and the rest being equal proportion of orthopyroxene and clinopyroxene. If the density of the minerals are olivine, if the density of the olivine is 3.42, density of orthopyroxene is 3.28 and the density of clinopyroxene is 3.46, then the bulk density of the genolith in gram per cc is. Now see, let the volume is 100. So the volume of olivine is 50 and its density is 3.42. So the mass of olivine will be density into volume, that is 3.42 into 50, that is equal to 171. Next, similarly, we will calculate the mass of OPX and CPX. Now the total density is total mass divided by total volume. And for total mass, we add up the masses of olivine, orthopyroxene and clinopyroxene and divided by total volume that we have taken 100. So which will give an approximate value of 3.4. Next question, the SiO2 value recalculated on volatile free basis of the rock whose major oxide of weight percentage composition is given below. So basically in this question, we have given the weight percentage of different oxides and we have to recalculate the weight percent of SiO2 on a volatile free basis. That means we have to consider that all the oxides present here that constitutes total 100% and then find the value of weight percentage of SiO2. And in order to do that, we have to multiply the weight percentage of SiO2 into 100 and divide it by the total weight percentage. That is, we have 45.58 into 100 divided by 95.72, which will give rise to 47.62. Okay. Next question, as shown in the following figure, a vertical well intersects the top and the bottom of an inclined bed at 200 and 410 meter depth. If the true depth of the bed is 60 degree to the north and the true thickness of the bed is dash meters. In this figure you can see the vertical thickness of the bed is the difference of 410 and 200, that is 210 meters. And in this figure you see the line that is perpendicular to the lower base, that is the true thickness of the bed. And the height 210 meter is the vertical thickness. Now by simple geometry you can see that true thickness equal to vertical thickness into cos of the deep angle. Remember this as a formula, that is true thickness equal to vertical thickness into cos of deep angle. So here we have 210 into cos 60, which gives rise to 210 by 2 and the final answer is 105 meters. Next question, in the given geological map, the horizontal lines are stratum contours. The throw on the fault FF is dash meters. Now see, I have renamed the lines so that we can clearly say which contour line corresponds to which line. See, for the line AA, we have the contour value 100. For BB, we have the contour value 200. For CC, we have 300. For D, we have 400. And for E, we have 500. Similarly, if you calculate, we have for I, we have the contour value of 800. That is, if there is no fault, then the contour value at I will be 800. But the contour value of I at present is 400 meters. So the throw of the fault is 800 minus 400 equal to 400 meters. Now you can also ask why the value of throw is equal to the difference of the contour lines. See, because contour lines depict the vertical distance of a structure and throw is the vertical displacement along the fault. Okay, next question. Two localities A and B on the continental plate as shown in the figure below are separated by a distance of 80 km. The plate velocities measured at A and B are 4 cm per year and 5 cm per year respectively. Assuming no faulting in the area, the new distance between A and B will be dash kilometer in 1 million year. Now see, at A locality it moves 4 cm per year and at B locality it moves 5 cm per year. So in a particular year the net difference in movement is 1 cm per year. Okay, so in 1 million year it would move 1 into 1 million, that is 1 into 10 to the power 6 cm, that is 10 kilometers. Okay, So now if you consider the triangle at the right side of the figure, then you will find that the base of it is 10 kilometers and the height is 80 kilometers. So, and now we have to calculate the hypotenuse of it. So by applying simple Pythagoras theorem, we will get that the length of the hypotenuse is 8.62 kilometers. Okay. And the last question, in the following schematic diagram, the aluminosilicate triple point is located at a pressure of 4.5 kilobar and a temperature of 823 degree Kelvin. If the reaction andalusite changes to sillimanite has a negative slope with a value of minus 18.22 bar per degree Kelvin, the pressure of the reaction at 923 degree Kelvin is dash kilobar. Now in this question, we have given the pressure and temperature value at the triple point and the pressure gradient per degree change in the temperature. And we are asked to calculate the pressure at 923 degree Kelvin. Now we have the pressure gradient of minus 18.22 bar per degree Kelvin and the total change in temperature is 100 degree Kelvin. So the net change in pressure is minus 18.22 into 100 minus 1822 bar, that is minus 1.822 kilobar. So the pressure of the reaction is 4.5 minus 1.822, that is 2.68 kilobar. Okay. That's it for today guys. Hope we have solved all your queries. But still if you have any doubts, you can ask that in the comment section. And to join with us on Telegram and Instagram, just click the link down below. Thank you.